Hi, all my lovely Fleur dressmakers. Today I am here to show you how to do the pleats for the Fleur skirt. It's a little bit different, but nothing to be scared of. So stick with me for a minute and we'll have this bad boy worked out. Right now, on my ironing board in front of you, you can see the width of the skirt laid out. The side seams are already sewn, and it is right side facing you. You want to go ahead and mark the center front of your skirt. Ignore the back. Pretend it doesn't exist. We are just working from the front. So go ahead and mark the center front. I have the center front of my skirt marked with this lovely blue pin. So blue pin is my center front. Okay, so you have the center front of your skirt marked. You want to match that up with the center front of your sewn bodice. So if you're using your pleating guide, that already has taken account for seam allowance. Your sewn bodice has taken account for seam allowance. So I'm using my sewn bodice, but you can use your pleating guide that is on your pattern pieces as well. We want to mark for point A. Point A is the point on your skirt that matches up with the side seam on your bodice. That's simple. I'm using a white pin to mark point A for the purpose of this video. You can use a marking tool, you can use a pen, you can use pins, you can use a pressed pleat, or not pleat, a pressed marking there, anything you want to do to make sure you know where point A is. So for me, blue pin is center front, white pin is point A. Okay, so now we are going to mark point B. Point B is the most important because it gets marked on both the front and the back. It is the only thing that is going to be the same front and back. So point B you find by measuring out 6 inches from point A. So you have point A at that side seam, go out 6 inches, that is point B. All right, so we've put a pin to mark point B, but look what I've done. I've gone ahead and marked point B on both the front of my fabric and the back of my fabric. This is the exact same amount of space from your side seam of your skirt. All of this up here is going to become your flange. And the flange is just a fancy word for a part of the skirt that is attached to itself and not to the bodice and is going to hang down and create some cool draping. All right, so now back to our front. You've got point B marked in the back, but let's leave that alone for right now, back just to the front. So you've got this fabric in between your two markings, marking A over here, marking B over here. You're gonna pull that fabric up towards you. You want this pleat coming out of the fabric and towards you until you get those 2 points lined up exactly, which is going to line up perfectly with the side seam of your bodice. And then all that extra fold is going to go in towards the center. So that's where your pleat goes. So all that fabric folded up, coming out straight towards you, with those 2 points meeting perfectly right at that side seam. You press the rest of it towards center, and this is your front pleat. You will baste in place 1/4 inch from the top just to hold it there. You can also just pin it in place, whatever works for you. Basting, just make sure it's not going to move or slide when you go to sew the bodice on. All right, so go ahead and repeat that for the other side of your front. So you will now have 2 pleats, one on this side and one on this side, going in towards center. From your side seam to the fold of that pleat is going to be 3 inches because we did 6 inches total and it's just half the width. So you have a 3-inch pleat moving in towards center on both the right and the left side of your front. All right, everyone good? Now we move on to that fun flange. So we're going to come over here And right here is the side seam of my skirt. So all I'm going to do is take this and match up that point B on the back that you marked that perfectly matches point B from the front, and you're going to put it right there against the side seam, and you're going to have an equal amount of fabric that you're sewing for your flange. Okay, so set that aside. We're going to go from point B, so let me flip this over. Okay, I've flipped around to the back of the skirt and the back of the bodice. I'm showing you the back of the bodice here, but you're not actually lining up anything against the back of the bodice. I just want you to remember when you come back to the video, we're on the back now. Okay, back of the skirt. You have point B already marked because it is exactly the same from the side seam of your skirt to point B on the back as it is on the front. That way your flange is perfectly even on both sides. So from point B, we're going to make mark C. Mark C is pretty easy. You've done this before. We're just making it smaller. All right, so get your handy dandy ruler. We're going 1, 2, 3, 4 in, and we're going to put a mark right there. That is point C. Okay, so mark C is now in place. Same way you did on the front, you want to match up B and C together. And you do that by folding all the excess fabric in towards you until those bad boys meet. We've got the pleat in the middle, and we push it towards center back. And sorry I'm doing everything one-handed. I don't have a handy-dandy holder for my phone. This is my first video ever. Hello, world. Okay, so B and C are together. Pleat is folded in towards center back. You can base that in place. You can pin that in place. So now we have our pleats marked and pinned in place, both front and back. So here's my back one. This is the 4-inch pleat that ends up being a 2-inch fold. Up here is my front one. You can tell how it's bigger. That's the 6-inch that became a 3-inch fold. So now we take and we match up perfectly where the end of that pleat is. This is where, if you marked with a pen, you're going to recognize this point because this point is where point A and B matched. I've moved my pins, sorry. But if you marked with a marking pen, your mark is still going to be there. So right there, right at the inside where the two pleats perfectly butt up against each other is where the flange starts. And you can see that from there out to my side seam is perfectly even. Let me get that pinned down. All right, so right here is my side seam of my skirt. This is where the two pleats end and butt up right against each other perfectly. This lays perfectly flat front and center because that point B was the same exact distance in from the side seam on both the front and the back. So now you're going to turn this inside out so that the wrong side is facing you so that we can stitch right along this line. I'm going to stitch all of that closed. Okay, I love flipping over to the wrong side because now you can really see everything well. Here's the side seam. I've serged my side seam so nothing will unravel. Your skirt should really already be serged along this top end because that's the only way you're going to get a finished edge. This is just pure muslin for the fact of making this video, so I'm sorry, my top edge is not serged, but this should already be serged. Should have already done that. All right, so you can see here is the inside edge of my pleat. This pin is where marking B would have been. You can see on the opposite side, the other edge, fold edge is right there. It's right there. So you've got both of those folds right there. They're butting right up against each other. They just have the beautiful flange in the middle. Okay? So now from white pin all the way out to side seam, stitch it up. When you repeat that on the other side, you will be left with a hole in the middle. That hole in the middle is what you're going to match up to your bodice waist. You're going to find that you have more excess in the back than you do in the front, and that's because we only did a 4-inch pleat. If we had done a